Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to install Big Sur onto this X99 chipset motherboard. So it doesn't matter if it's Gigabyte or Asus or whatever. The chipset must talk to the CPU the same way. The only thing that's going to be different is a USB peripheral and all the other peripheral on the motherboard themselves. The important thing is that when you get your motherboard X99, look at the CPU support. So this one right here I have, which is supporting mine 6900K. This one also support 5960, 5930K, and 5820K. Okay, so I also have my daughter's computer that use 5820K using X99 SLI motherboard. But all the X99 is gonna be the same way. Okay, so the config files are the most important one for anything to work or to run. Okay, so we got the problem on this SSD internal is that it couldn't create the installer partition. And a patch, in order for you to even install, you have to have a patch on the bootstrap to install. So the manual in Insanely Mac, so if you have anything like 59, 58 series, is a Haswell. The 69, it will be Broadwell. So two patches are different. So then we have other patches too, but other patches should be the same except the emulate. So how do we do this one? Because without the correct patch, you will not be able to boot at all. So the first thing you need to do is to emulate the CPU with the right number for your, this is a Broadwell-E. Open core kernel and kex patches for X99 and X299 motherboard, which is written by Ann Mano. Alright, look at this one right here. Now the CPU data and mass on this one, emulate, is a little bit off for my Broadwell-E. If I put this one, it won't run. I have to use the one from the Open Core Install Guide. Alright, here, this is what I use. So you have to use the one for Haswell. So in order for the Big Sur to go through this 13 minutes mark, you need to have XMPC bootstrap patch in the kernel. If not, it's gonna have a problem of uploading. 1 minute marks, that means it's good. So I go past the 13, now it's working. So it's gonna reboot pretty soon. There it is. So we're good. First you need to have the emulate, then you use whatever's in here. So I think that the only important thing is the bootstrap, which is different. They have different one for Broadwell, different one for Skylex, and different one for Haswell. So use the one accordingly. Don't just put all of them in there. So one good thing about OpenCore is that you can copy all, but you can enable only what you use. So follow this one. Let's look at my config. When I want to install without the 13 minutes mark broken, if you go to the 13-minute marks and it said they cannot install, it's because the bootstrap is not on. You didn't patch the bootstrap. But when you patch the bootstrap Broadwell-E or whatever, the Haswell, the Intel Power Management will get stuck at the 3.5 at the maximum, and they won't have the speed steps. So that's the problem. So after we install it, then we disable it, then you will have the speed steps. So I don't know anybody ever fixed this problem with the bootstrap. I only use the bootstrap when I install the Big Sur. Other than that, so I have two config files. One is for installation and one is for running. So just follow this. Enable. Enable. So these are the only important things beside the CACs that you have to use for your motherboard and your CPU. Okay? So just go there and get all of these patched correctly. Now, one good thing about the X99 that we don't have to patch anything. I don't patch the SDT, I don't patch anything at all. So what is a ACPI? No, let's do this first. In order for this to run from the beginning in the kernel, LILU is normal. You have to have USB inject all. You only need from the beginning. And the most important one, virtual SMC, you need already. XHCI unsupported CACs. So what this one does is that it will register all of the USB devices that is not supported by Mac OS. So it will enable that. So you can get all of yours USB. So you need this and this from the beginning. USB inject all and XHCI supported CACs. Alright. You need these two to get your going. You need the Apple ALC so that you can get the sound. Now, if you have the M2 Wi-Fi, and if you replace with Airport Broadcom, if not, you use the original Intel, then it still works too. But the Ethernet is the most important one. So this is for the Intel right here. Alright, if you have an Intel AC, 7220 or whatever. Alright, I never use Bluetooth injector for Intel because it automatically works. It's better than if we use that. So Some people use fake SMC. Now here's the problem with the fake SMC. If I use a fake SMC, every time I boot, I will have an error, which I don't like. It's just a warning. But if you use the SMC from OpenCore, it's fine. So you need the whatever green, that's important. And you need the mouse CAX for Intel Ethernet. Or you can use the Apple Intel 1000E.CAX also, whatever works. So, but Intel mouses should work for all Intel Ethernet. Now, they have the CPU sync CAX, so I use this one. You should have that too. So NVMe fix if you want. Now, Catalina ASCII port injector, which is for you to see the internal SATA, and I don't use this one. So when we open the X99 EFI, if you go into the OC, in the CAX you should have all the one listed here. So it doesn't matter X99 UD5 or Ultra or whatever the case may be. Just check to see if you have Realtek audio. Alright, then you use the Apple ALC. CPU sync, use these two. This one. Now check to see if your Ethernet Intel. So a lot of people are so lazy they don't even know what they have in their motherboard. So you have to go into the device in the Windows and find out what you have. Alright? Don't ever ask me for the EFI, because all the EFI is different. Lilu.CAX, you need USB inject all, you need virtual SMC, you need NVMe fix, you need if you want. So CPU TSC sync and Voodoo TSC sync is the same, so it doesn't matter. Whatever green you need, XHCI and the supported CAX you need. So actually you don't need many CAX to get this one running. If you look on the internet, you will see tons of X99 CAX. If you understand what it is, then you don't need it. Oh, the ACPI, okay? Let's look at the ACPI folder. So, from the beginning, if you go to Notania, you will see that the only thing that they need is the SSDT EC USB-X. Alright, without the UD5. The UD5 is, I just customize it. But you need the SSDT EC USB-X, that's one. You need the plug, SSDT plug, without this, okay? Go there and download that. You need the RTC0 and the UNC. Okay, that's all you need. 1, 2, 3, and 4. But you also need the one is called, actually you need these 4 and you can run already. After you install, now this is called the post. The post is that you will use an application called the Hacking Tools to customize your USB. Alright, if you want. To me, even though if you don't do it, you still get your USB if you have the HCI unsupported kegs. But you can use this to export your USB. Hacking tool will output for you 3 files: SSDTEC USBX and SSDT UIAC and USB port.kex. I only use these two guys, and I don't use this kex. Okay, so either use this or these two. So what do I use? I use all the special one I made for me. UIAC hack. Now this one is the R9280, which I make the fake. So the important thing is this: you have to have a good supported graphic cards. So I recommend the GTX NVIDIA over AMD. AMD, they use a lot of power. So unless you have a very good power supply and a huge one. So I use GTX 760 and GTX. So I think the highest one you can use for Big Sur is GTX 780. Patch. So what do I patch? I only patch if my sleep and wake is not working. So this one right here is to patch the instant wake. So if you put to sleep and it wakes up right away, then you use this. I only patch this because with the new open core, everything works so nicely. And if you patch the USB port correctly, it will run beautifully. So what is the plug UD5? So the plug is the ACPI, power management. So if you can use the generic one is fine too. But what is this one? I made this one. So if you open the plug and then you check your DSDT, you can modify this one so that it will work perfectly for yours. Or you can use PR generation for Pike Alpha to generate the SSDT power management for that also. So either one will work. So I have this one. So this one is just the output. I use hacking tools. So all this one does is that they only list the one that the hardware actually use, and they make sure that the ID number for the USB 3.0 is working. I output the USB ports using hacking tool without deleting any of the USB port that are not used. So all USB port in my DSDT are there. For the GTX, I don't have to add anything. It's automatically seen by the whatever green. Is so good. What stopped you from loading or installing the Big Sur or Catalina? It's all in the kernel patching. Yes, the quartz, but the quartz is pretty normal. You have to read this. If you use the patch, then you don't do the quartz. So that's what it is, right? So you got to read this, but it's really simple. It's really easy. Just follow it. I will put my config, and the only thing you need to change is your SM BIOS. But I know that even Haswell, any CPU for X99, you can use the iMac Pro 1.1. So the NVRAM. So the last one is because I add this. So the NPCI equal 2000, or somebody put 3000, but it doesn't matter. If you use anything less, the SM BIOS that is not supported, you have to use the no compatibility check, right? But if you use the iMac Pro 1.1, you don't need it. I always turn this one to 0. And if you have a problem that every time you install and it's in Russian, make sure you have this number here. This one's for English. So everything else is pretty much standard. OpenCore just come out with the 0.6.6. So when they come out with a 0.6.6, for the resource to work, you must install the left and the right. You have to download the left and the right icon. So on the setup, make sure that the boot option number 1 is your boot disk. OpenCore 0.6.6. So now they added this scrolling, so it's kind of nice. So what I'm going to do today, and this one is X99 Haswell 5820K. So actually we're using the dual monitor, and this one we use the AMD R9 280. Alright, so actually they're using this one over here. So if you are looking for an EFI folder that will work with your X99, you go to this Insanely Mac, OpenCore kernel, and kex patch for X99 and X299. And if you scroll down, you will see the X99 OC 6.3, and you can download it there and you can use that. And they have the EFI folder too. So, but the config file on this one is really good if you know what to use and what not to use. Yeah, so this is actually a triple boot: Catalina, Big Sur, and Windows. So now we're gonna go with Big Sur. Really fast. Triple boot. Now we're gonna boot with Catalina. Okay, pretty fast. X99 i7 6900K to Windows.